Why do some people walk into a room and instantly earn respect without saying a word? It's not about status. It's not about being loud. It's about habits, daily disciplines that quietly shape how the world sees you. Building respect is a daily discipline. Let's get one thing straight from the start. Respect is not something you demand. It's something you earn, day by day, habit by habit. And it's not just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself when no one's watching. You see, a lot of people chase recognition. They want validation, applause, status, but they overlook the one thing that actually commands respect in silence: character. That's right. Real respect doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply shows up through your discipline, your presence, your consistency. Think about it. When was the last time you looked at someone and felt respect for them before they said a word? It wasn't their clothes. It wasn't their title. It was probably something deeper. How they carried themselves, how they listened, how they moved with intention, not impulse. That kind of presence isn't accidental. It's the result of invisible daily habits, choices most people overlook, but the Stoics understood deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, how you think, how you act when no one's watching, how you treat your time, your space, your energy, that's what paints your character. And character is what earns you respect, not flashy words, not superficial charm. So let's flip the script. Instead of trying to look respectable, let's learn to become someone who naturally earns it without chasing it. Because here's the truth. You don't build respect by performing. You build it by practicing, by showing up with integrity when it's inconvenient, by keeping promises to yourself when nobody else is watching, by holding your standards quietly and consistently. And if you're serious about self-mastery, if you're tired of wondering why people don't take you seriously, if you're done with feeling overlooked or underestimated, then this is your wake-up call. The 9 Stoic habits we're about to explore are not loud. They're not dramatic, but they're powerful. They will change the way people respond to you, and more importantly, how you view yourself. Because that's where it starts. You earn respect from the outside when you build it from the inside. So here's the invitation. Don't just watch this video like it's motivational background noise. Watch it like a checklist for your next chapter. Take an honest look at your own behaviors. Ask yourself, which of these habits have I been neglecting? Where do I need to level up, not for others, but for me? Because the moment you stop chasing validation and start building a life based on self-respect, self-control, and daily mastery, that's when the world begins to mirror that power back to you. Now, let's dive into 9 quiet, powerful habits that build unshakable respect from the ground up. Ready? Habit 1. Practicing self-control. Strength over impulse. Let's start with the one thing that quietly separates the truly powerful from the merely reactive. Self-control. It doesn't look flashy. It doesn't shout. But in a world full of impulsive behavior, it's one of the rarest and most respected qualities you can develop. Because here's the truth. Anyone can explode in anger. Anyone can say whatever's on their mind with no filter. But real strength, that's the person who pauses, who chooses their response when it would be easier to lash out. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. What does that mean in modern life? It means you can't control what others do, but you can control how you show up. Picture this. You're in a meeting and someone publicly undermines your work. Your ego flares. Your pulse rises. You're ready to fire back. But then you breathe, you take a second, and instead of reacting emotionally, you ask a clarifying question or redirect the energy calmly. In that moment, you didn't just protect your peace, you earned respect. Why? Because people don't trust volatility. They trust stability. They trust the person who doesn't crumble under pressure, who stays composed even when things go sideways. This isn't about being passive. It's about being strategic. Self-control is not weakness. It's wisdom. And it's not just about anger either. It's about resisting that urge to overspend when you're stressed. It's about holding your boundaries when someone tries to guilt trip you. It's about not chasing validation from people who don't deserve your energy. Every act of self-control is a declaration. I govern myself. That's stoicism in motion. That's maturity in real life. Let me ask you, how often do you react instead of responding? When was the last time you regretted something you said or didn't say because you let your emotions lead the way? We've all been there. But here's the difference between staying stuck and growing up. People who earn lasting respect learn from those moments. They start choosing their inner world over instant gratification. They build the muscle of emotional restraint day by day. This is what Stoics train for. They didn't seek to eliminate emotion. They sought to master it, to feel without being ruled, to act with intention, not impulse. So if you want to be taken seriously, if you want your presence to carry weight, start here. Master the pause. Catch the urge before it catches you. And lead yourself before you try to lead anyone else. Because when people see that you can stay centered in chaos, they'll instinctively respect you, whether they admit it or not. And over time, this habit compounds. You become less reactive, more focused, more grounded, more trustworthy, more you without the emotional noise. So, ready to level up? In the next habit, we'll talk about something just as powerful. How to truly connect by doing something most people never do. Listen, but earning respect isn't just about how we control ourselves. It's also about how deeply we show up for others. And that begins with how we listen. Habit 2, active listening. Deep presence creates connection. Have you ever talked to someone and felt like they were just waiting for their turn to speak? Not really listening, just nodding along, eyes glazed over, attention somewhere else. Now flip it. Think of a time when someone was fully present with you. They looked you in the eye. They didn't interrupt. They weren't rushing to fix you or judge you. They simply listened. That kind of presence is rare and powerful. In a world where most people talk to be heard, listening becomes a superpower. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "Always be asking, what is the nature of this thing?" He wasn't just talking about objects or situations, he meant people too. When you truly listen, you're not just hearing words, you're uncovering motives, emotions, truths that live beneath the surface. That's what builds connection. Real listening builds trust. It builds loyalty. It builds influence. And yet, so many people think leadership is about having the loudest voice or being the smartest in the room. But the leaders who are truly respected, the ones people want to follow, are often the ones who know how to shut up and listen. Let me give you a real-world example. There was a CEO I once worked with. Sharp guy, fast-paced, high-performing, but he had one unique trait. Whenever someone spoke to him, he gave them his full, undivided attention. No checking his phone, no multitasking, just total presence. His team would run through walls for him, not because he demanded it, but because they felt heard, understood, valued. That's the power of active listening. And here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Listening is a form of emotional discipline. It takes self-control to hold your opinions, to resist the urge to interrupt, to stay curious instead of reactive. It takes wisdom to realize that not every conversation needs a solution. Sometimes people just need to be seen. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you listened, really listened to someone? Not to argue, not to advise, but just to understand. Because when you do, everything changes. You shift from being noise in the background to being someone they trust. You go from surface level interactions to deep, meaningful connection. And that's not just social intelligence, that's Stoic mastery. Over time, the habit of true listening transforms not only your relationships, but also your character. You become less reactive, more present, more human. So if you want to lead, to connect, to grow, start with your ears, not your mouth. And next, let's talk about another lost discipline in modern life, the quiet power of physical presence and posture. Once people feel heard, there's something even more powerful that deepens the bond, genuine appreciation. Let's talk about the quiet strength of gratitude. Habit 3, showing gratitude, appreciation builds trust. Let me ask you something simple, but powerful. When was the last time you told someone, thank you, and really meant it? Not just a quick automatic thanks, but a genuine expression of appreciation. Because here's the truth. In a world obsessed with getting more, gratitude is a rare form of wisdom, and yet it's the foundation of all trust. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." That's not just poetic reflection. That's perspective. The kind of perspective that separates people who radiate calm strength from those who live in constant dissatisfaction. See, gratitude isn't weakness. It's not fluff. It's a mark of emotional maturity because it takes awareness to recognize what's going right, especially when life feels heavy. It takes humility to acknowledge that you don't do this alone, that others show up for you, support you, believe in you. And when you express appreciation for that, something changes, not just in them, in you. Your relationships grow deeper. Your confidence gets stronger. You stop focusing on what's missing and start standing on what's already working. Think about this. Who do you respect more? Someone who constantly complains, always focused on what they lack, or someone who regularly appreciates what they have and who never forgets to acknowledge the people around them? We're naturally drawn to those who are grounded in gratitude because gratitude is magnetic. It lifts the energy of a room without saying much. It says, I see you, you matter, and I'm not too proud to say it. And here's the kicker. Small expressions of gratitude can radically transform your relationships. A short message, a handwritten note, a quiet, sincere compliment. These little moments have a big ripple effect. They tell people they're not invisible, that their effort counts, that they're appreciated. This isn't just about manners. It's about identity. Because the more you practice gratitude, the more you reinforce the mindset of strength, not scarcity. And over time, that shows. People trust you more. They respect your presence. And you start walking through life with a different kind of power. The power of someone who doesn't take anything for granted. So here's your challenge. Before the day ends, tell one person sincerely, thank you. Look them in the eye. Say it from the heart. No fluff, no overthinking, just real appreciation. You'll be surprised how something so small builds something so strong. Next, let's explore another underrated signal of strength, the way you carry yourself without saying a word. Feeling thankful is powerful, but it's not enough on its own. Respect grows when your actions match your words day in and day out. Habit 4, consistency in actions. Integrity over time. Let me ask you something straight. When you say you'll do something, do you actually follow through? Because here's the truth. In a world full of empty promises, consistency is power. Not loud declarations, not flashy intentions, just quiet, repeatable action done over time. That's what earns real respect. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need a perfect resume or silver tongue. But if your actions consistently match your words, people notice. And more importantly, people trust you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What does that mean? It means your greatest strength lies not in reacting, but in remaining grounded in your principles, no matter how others behave. Consistency isn't just about showing up on the good days. It's about showing up even when no one's watching, even when it's hard, even when you're tired and no one's clapping. Think about someone in your life who always delivers. Maybe it's a mentor, a partner, or a boss. They don't just talk about values, they live them. Their word means something. They do what they say they'll do. Not once, not twice, but every time. That's not just admirable, it's rare. And in that rarity, you find influence. You find credibility. You find quiet leadership. Let's look at a real-world example. An entrepreneur who makes a promise to customers and honors it again and again. No excuses, no cutting corners. Over time, they build more than just a business. They build a reputation, and reputation is currency because consistency breeds trust. And trust is what makes people follow you, hire you, respect you, even when you're not in the room. Here's the hard truth. Inconsistency chips away at your integrity. It tells the world, "I can't be counted on." You may not even realize you're doing it. Canceling plans last minute, missing deadlines, talking big but delivering small. But those moments add up, and they define how people see you. The Stoics believe that your character is shaped by what you repeatedly do, not by what you say you believe. And they were right, because over time, your habits become your identity. So ask yourself, are your daily actions aligned with the person you claim to be? Or are you building a fragile image that can't hold under pressure? This isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. Your values, your words, your behaviors. When those three things line up, you don't just gain respect, you gain peace. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop over-explaining. You simply live in a way that speaks for itself. So here's your challenge today. Pick one small promise and keep it, not for anyone else, for you. Wake up when you said you would. Finish the task you keep putting off. Speak kindly even when you're frustrated. Start proving to yourself that your word means something. Because when you do, others will start believing in you too. And that's how true respect is built. Not in grand moments, but in the small, quiet decisions you make daily. Coming up next, we'll talk about a habit that's even more magnetic than consistency. How to master the art of listening. But none of that matters if you're running on empty, because the way you treat your body speaks volumes about how much you value yourself. Habit 5, taking care of your health. Discipline reflects self-respect. Let me be blunt for a moment. If you say you respect yourself, but constantly neglect your body, your sleep, your fuel, you're not being honest with yourself. Because self-respect begins with self-maintenance. Marcus Aurelius, a man who led armies and empires, said it simply, "Take care to be a good man, And do not neglect your own health. He understood that your body isn't a side note to your greatness. It's the very vessel through which greatness must move. You can't think clearly if you're always exhausted. You can't lead powerfully if your body's screaming for rest. And you certainly can't show up for others if you're barely showing up for yourself. Now, I'm not talking about six-pack abs or running marathons. I'm talking about respecting your own energy like it actually matters. Think about someone you admire, not for how they look, but for the energy they carry. Maybe it's a friend who exercises regularly, eats real food, sleeps like they mean it. They're not obsessed with health. They're committed to it. And because of that, they carry a kind of quiet confidence. They're not burned out. They don't chase validation. They're grounded, clear, alive. That's not vanity. That's self-respect in motion. Too often we treat our health like an afterthought, something we'll fix when things slow down, or after this project, or when the kids are older. But let's be honest, that time rarely comes. And in the meantime, we burn the candle at both ends until there's nothing left to give. The Stoics taught us to prepare the mind and body for life's challenges. Because when crisis comes, and it always does, it's not just philosophy that saves you. It's strength, stamina, clarity, emotional resilience. And all of that starts with the boring, simple stuff. Getting enough sleep, moving your body, feeding it what it actually needs, saying no to things that drain your vitality. Let me ask you, when was the last time you truly listened to your body and honored what it asked for? Was it rest, hydration, a break from sugar, a walk instead of another scroll? The way you care for your body is the loudest nonverbal message you send to the world about how seriously you take yourself. And people pick up on it, whether they say it or not. They can feel when you're fueled versus when you're fried. They can tell when your presence radiates strength versus survival mode. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to biohack every calorie or obsess over your appearance. But you do need to ask yourself daily, is how I'm treating my body aligned with the life I say I want? Because let's face it, discipline and health echoes in every part of life. When you train yourself to do hard things physically, your mind follows. When you delay gratification in diet, you build mental grit. When you rest well, your emotions become steadier. Taking care of your health isn't a side quest. It's the foundation. It's the soil from which focus, patience, strength, and clarity grow. So if you're looking to build lasting self-respect, don't start with fancy affirmations. Start with your sleep, your water, your movement, your food, and most importantly, your boundaries around these things. Because when you show your body you care, something shifts inside you. And that shift, subtle as it may be, is what others start to respect too. Next up, we'll talk about a deeper kind of integrity, the kind that shows up when your words and actions stay in sync. Let's talk about consistency. Taking care of your physical health lays the foundation, but your mindset is the architect. Let's explore how wisdom helps you navigate life with clarity. Habit 6. Cultivating wisdom. Reflection over reaction. Let's be honest, anyone can react, but not everyone takes time to reflect. And in a world addicted to speed, noise, and opinions, the person who pauses before responding, that person stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. Cultivating wisdom is not about knowing everything. It's about resisting the urge to react to everything. Marcus Aurelius said it best. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not your followers, not your income, not your status, but your thoughts. So here's the question. When someone challenges you, When life throws the unexpected your way, do you default to reaction or do you make space for understanding? Because here's the truth. People respect those who respond with depth, not noise. And that kind of depth comes from reflection. Think of a leader who commands respect, not because they talk the most, but because when they speak, everyone listens. Why? Because they've already thought things through. They don't speak to be heard. They speak to bring clarity. Wisdom isn't flashy. It doesn't come from memorizing quotes or sounding spiritual. It comes from what you do in the quiet moments, when no one's watching, when emotions rise, when your ego wants to lash out. But you breathe instead. You pause. You question your assumptions. You ask, what's really going on here? You give space for insight to rise instead of letting impulse take the wheel. In that space, character is built. It's easy to fire off a comeback. It's easy to act out of frustration or pride. But real strength lies in choosing to understand before judging, to pause before punishing, to see the full picture before acting on a fragment. Now think about someone in your life who models that wisdom. Maybe it's a parent, a mentor, or a friend who doesn't overreact when things get tense. Instead, they ask thoughtful questions. They listen, they reflect. And because of that, their presence calms the room, not escalates it. That's not a personality trait. That's a cultivated skill built through self-awareness, learning from mistakes, and refusing to live on autopilot. Here's something most people don't realize. Wisdom doesn't arrive like lightning. It grows like a tree, slow, steady, and rooted in daily practice. You gain it by reading? Yes. But even more, by observing your own mind, questioning your habits, and learning from your own failures. It's in the moments after an argument when you ask yourself, what could I have done differently? It's in the morning walks where you replay yesterday's events and search for a deeper lesson. It's in your ability to delay judgment of others and yourself. And over time, something changes. You stop reacting to life like a victim. You stop needing to win every disagreement. You start choosing peace over pride, clarity over chaos, meaning over noise. That's the quiet superpower that turns ordinary people into guides. It's also why wise people are rare and deeply respected. So if you want to build a life that others trust and admire, don't just sharpen your arguments. Sharpen your awareness. Sharpen your discipline. Sharpen your ability to sit with discomfort long enough to find truth, not just relief. Because reflection isn't weakness. It's a weapon, one that protects your peace and expands your power. Over time, people will notice that you don't just talk wisely, you live wisely. And that's when your presence starts speaking louder than your words ever could. Up next, we'll explore how humility, the kind that owns both wins and flaws, can radically shift how others experience your strength. Let's dive into habit 7. True wisdom also teaches humility, the kind that doesn't shout, but speaks volumes through quiet self-awareness. Let's talk about the power of humble confidence. Habit 7. Encouraging others. Uplift to earn respect. Here's a truth most people miss. Real respect isn't earned by outshining everyone around you. It's earned by helping others shine too. In a world that often glorifies competition, dominance, and being the best in the room, we forget that true strength lies not in stepping over others, but in lifting them up. Anyone can talk about success, but it takes character to build a life where your success includes the success of those around you. Think about someone you truly admire, not for what they achieved, but for how they made others feel. Maybe it's a mentor, a colleague, or even a quiet friend who always made space for others to grow. That kind of presence sticks with people. That's legacy. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What we do now echoes in eternity." Those words aren't just poetic, they're a reminder that your impact goes far beyond the moment. When you uplift others, when you choose encouragement over envy, you're creating ripples that outlast applause. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you gave someone a genuine word of encouragement without expecting anything in return? Not flattery, not manipulation, just a simple, honest expression of support. In workplaces, it's often the teammate who motivates others, not the loudest in the room, who becomes a true leader. In families, it's the person who quietly supports rather than criticizes that builds trust. And in friendships, it's the one who roots for you when they're not the center of attention that earns lifelong respect. Encouraging others doesn't mean you're less. It means you're secure enough in yourself to recognize that someone else rising doesn't threaten your own light. In fact, it makes it brighter. Because here's the secret. Every time you encourage someone else, you reinforce your own integrity. You build trust. You build connection. And over time, you build a quiet kind of influence that no title or trophy can ever give you. So if you want respect, don't demand it. Don't try to dominate it. Earn it by showing others what it looks like to rise and take others with you. Start today. One genuine compliment, one word of belief, one small push for someone who needs it. That's the kind of habit that echoes long after you've left the room. And what happens when life throws a curveball? The next habit reveals how real strength is found in the way we adapt and bend without breaking. Habit 8, being adaptable, resilience, and change. You know what truly earns quiet respect? Not just standing firm when life is easy, but bending with grace when life throws a storm at you. Adaptability, not the kind that abandons your values, but the kind that allows you to adjust your sails when the wind changes. Because let's be honest, the wind always changes. Marcus Aurelius said it best. What stands in the way becomes the way. He wasn't just speaking poetically. He was showing us a mindset, one where obstacles aren't interruptions, but instructions. When something blocks your path, you don't crumble, you transform. A respected person isn't rigid, they're responsive. Imagine a leader during a crisis. When the plan falls apart, the budget shifts, the people panic. Some freeze, others complain. But the true leader, they breathe, they assess, they adapt. And in doing so, they remain rooted in their values while changing their approach. That's not weakness. That's emotional intelligence in motion. That's strength that doesn't need to shout because it shows up in how you move, not just what you say. Adaptability isn't about being flaky or spineless. It's about knowing what truly matters and being flexible about the rest. The Stoics were clear. We can't control external events, only our response. And sometimes the wisest response is to change. So ask yourself, when life shifts, do you resist or do you respond? When plans break, do you break with them or do you rise with a better version of yourself? Over time, those who adapt with principle, not panic, become the most trusted people in the room. Not because they always know the answer, but because they're not afraid of the unknown. That's real resilience. That's quiet confidence. That's the kind of strength people remember and respect. Up next, we'll explore the final habit, a silent discipline that makes the difference between temporary attention and lifelong admiration. Let's finish strong, but perhaps the most noble trait of all is the ability to give without expecting. Because the deepest form of respect often begins with silent service. Habit 9, helping without expecting. True virtue is selfless. Let's end with something rare, something that instantly sets a person apart. Even in a world full of noise, self-promotion, and hidden agendas, helping without expecting anything in return. Sounds simple, right? But think about how often we help others with strings attached, even invisible ones, the kind that whisper, "Now you owe me." But the truth is, real character shows when no one is watching, when there's no applause, no thank you, no return on investment. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." And what defines a good man or woman more than selfless action? Picture this: a business owner quietly funding education for kids in his hometown. No media coverage, no social posts. He doesn't do it for followers. He does it because it's the right thing to do. And that is power. The quiet kind, the unshakable kind, the kind of strength that commands deep respect, not just admiration. See, when you give freely, you're telling the world, "I'm not here to keep score. I'm here to serve." And that changes everything. How people feel around you, how they trust you, how they speak about you when you're not in the room. This isn't about being a doormat. It's about being bigger than the transaction. It's about rising above the ego that always wants credit and living from the deeper place, where your actions are their own reward. So here's the tough truth. If you only help to be seen, that's ego. If you help because it's who you are, that's virtue. In a world obsessed with what's in it for me, your willingness to give, quietly, humbly, and consistently, becomes revolutionary. It turns influence into integrity, connection into loyalty, and fleeting respect into something that lasts. Over time, the selfless ones aren't just remembered, they're revered, because people don't forget how you made them feel, especially when you expected nothing in return. So now, we've explored 9 habits that don't just earn attention, they earn lasting respect. But here's the truth. It all starts from within. Respect starts within. Here's the truth. Respect isn't a performance. It's not something you chase, and it sure isn't something you demand with loud words or inflated titles. It's something you become slowly, steadily, through how you show up every single day. You earn it not by talking about your values, but by living them. When it's hard, when no one's watching, when no one's clapping. Respect starts within. It begins the moment you choose discipline over impulse, presence over ego, purpose over comfort. And it's strengthened every time you keep your word, treat others with dignity, and hold yourself to a higher standard. Not because you have to, but because that's who you've decided to be. So I'll ask you this. Which one of these 9 habits are you ready to live today? Not just think about, not just write down in a notebook, but actually practice when life tests you, when people disappoint you, when you want to fall back into old patterns. That's the real work. That's where quiet influence is born. And remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Because the most respected people aren't flawless. They're consistent. They do the hard things, the honest things, and the humble things, especially when it's inconvenient. So as we wrap this up, let this line stay with you. Respect is the result of the positive and conscious actions we take each day. It's not about grand gestures. It's about daily discipline. It's about being the kind of person others can respect, not because you demanded it, but because you lived in a way that left no other option. Now the question is, who are you becoming through your daily choices? Because that's the version of you the world will remember. If this message spoke to you, consider subscribing for more Stoic insights each week. Which habit will you begin practicing today? Now that we've talked about the power of being present with others, let's turn inward to a habit that transforms how you see the world every morning. Gratitude makes you magnetic, but respect also grows through quiet consistency. And this next habit speaks louder than any words. And while showing up matters, how you take care of your body tells people everything about how you show up for yourself. Physical strength fuels mental clarity, but there's another form of power that doesn't come from reaction. It comes from deep reflection. True influence isn't loud, it's humble. And this next habit proves that humility isn't weakness. It's the kind of strength people never forget.